قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this live episode of Zad, coming to you every Sunday after Asr prayer in Mecca region, which is supposedly about 4:10 o'clock p.m. We begin with your first caller, Abid from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, my English is not so that fluency, but you can understand what's my point.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, jazakallah khair. Can I have your can we call you directly? Is it possible for 2 to 3 minutes?
It is possible. You can call the brothers in the control room. I hope, inshallah, the control room will provide you with my mobile number. You don't have any questions at the moment?
No. Control, from where can I get the control room?
They will give it to you now. Give that to her, please. Hamza from Bosnia.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I apologize for repeating this question and wasting your time, but I need something clarified.
Sure.
So I asked you on your website if it's allowed for me to go to public places to have coffee or tea with my friends where there is music playing in the background. And in all of my places, there's always music playing. So you answered to my question by just sending me a video. And I got confused that it is 2 different scenarios. So am I allowed to go there because I didn't initiate the action of playing music, or is it not permissible? Jazakum Allahu khairan.
Wa jazakum. First of all, I don't know what was in the video, so don't quote me for that. However, listening to music is prohibited without any doubt. And music is prohibited in the 4 schools of thought. And it was mentioned in 3 places in the Quran, and it was prohibited by the Prophet ﷺ in Sahih al-Bukhari and elsewhere in the authentic Sunnah. Now, there is a difference, as the scholars say, between hearing and listening. What is the difference? Hearing is something that is unintentional, something that's not voluntary, something that is forced upon you and you have no control over it. So I am driving, and at the traffic light, a car parks or is there next to me, and the windows are rolled down, and the man in it is listening to music. He's blasting the sound with music. He's sinful, and he gains the sins of everyone who's listening to it, but he doesn't care. Maybe he has credit, I don't know. Maybe he's most likely ignorant and doesn't know the ruling. Either way, what are my responsibilities? Am I sinful for this music? If I'm hearing it, then there's no sin on me. But if I start tapping on the steering wheel and go with my head like this and enjoying it and singing with that song, then I'm listening to it. I'm sinful. Likewise, when you go to a mall, or unfortunately in some hospitals, if you are in public transportations, they may play music. In this case, are you hearing or listening? If I'm hearing it, which means that I'm not happy with it, I'm resenting it, I'm abhorring it, then there is no sin on you. Now, when it comes to restaurants and coffee shops and the likes, some scholars say that, yeah, you're going to eat, you're going to drink coffee, There's no problem in going there. However, the most authentic opinion is that your presence there is not of a necessity. It's not an issue of life and death. It's not the only supermarket in town where I have to go to do my groceries and they're blasting music all over their speakers. No, it is something I can control. I can always take my food takeaway. I can always grab my coffee in a paper cup and we go to the park or we go sit somewhere where there is no music. But it would be inappropriate for you as a practicing Muslim, following the way of the Salaf, known to be a da'i or trying to be in such a place where you would be hearing the music and sometimes be affected by it. And this happened to me once where I was in one of the hotels and we were having a coffee and all of a sudden they started playing the music. And it was a song that I knew like 45 years ago. And you cannot help it but to remember the lyrics and to remember how joyful it was to listen to music at that time. May Allah forgive us. So in such cases, run. Don't tarnish your heart. Your heart is so fragile. It can be tarnished and hardened by any of these small sins. And this is what Satan does best, and Allah knows best. Farouk from Qatar. Farouk?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Can you raise your voice? I can barely hear you.
Okay. Is my voice fine now?
Farouk. Okay, we've lost Farouk. Maybe you should get a new set of microphones. Fuad from Bangladesh. Fuad. Okay, and Fuad went with Farouk to buy a new set of headsets. Now Faizan from India.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Rahimallahu walidayk wa ghafarallahu lak.
Wa lana wa lakum. What can I do for you?
Sheikh, is it permissible to make a congregation before the actual congregation in the masjid? Like, for example, our school allows us to go to the masjid, but gives us little time to pray. So we have to return before the actual congregation. So is it permissible for us to make a small congregation with our friends and then leave before the iqamah? And if it is haram, should we read those prayers?
It is totally prohibited for people to establish congregation in a masjid before the actual congregation, as this defies the purpose of having one imam and defies the purpose of uniting the Muslims together behind one imam. So your options are as follows. Number one, ask the imam to make their congregation, the original congregation, immediately after the adhan for the sake of the students in the school. And most likely he would not accept that. So your second option is not to pray in the masjid, pray in the school itself with the congregation or outside of the masjid so that you would not disturb the unity of the Muslims in that masjid. Imagine when you come and establish prayer and there are people waiting for the original congregation and see a congregation being conducted. The vast majority of them, they will leave the imam and they will catch up with you because they're 10 minutes earlier. It's good for their timings, it's suitable for them, and that would cause a lot of problem, and Allah knows best. Mutayyat from the UK.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, please, I work for a legal firm, a solicitor. They are in charge of remortgage, but I work as a case assistant that receive call from their customers to just forward documents and everything. So I want to know if it is permissible for me to work in such a setting, since I work for the legal firm, but they are into remortgage with banks. They also work from other firms like the electricity companies.
Okay, first of all, you are in a kafir country, which means that they do not legislate by the Sharia law and they do not deal with the Islamic Sharia. Therefore, it is not permissible for you to work except at cases that do not go against the Sharia. So if you work in cases dealing with mortgage, with insurance, with financing, with riba, with legislating other than what Allah has permitted, or enforcing laws that go against Islam, such as banning the marriage beyond the age of 21 or 18, as it's in some countries, this is haram. This is legislating against Allah's law. So you cannot work at such cases, defending them or advocating them or endorsing their haram laws. But if you're working in things that are in accordance to Islamic Sharia, someone who is complaining about another who stole his money, or engaged in a fight and broke his arm, or took his rights unlawfully, such things for you to work in order to restore the right to their lawful owners, according to Sharia and according to the civil law, there's nothing wrong in that, and Allah knows best. Yusuf from Canada.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, my question is, if I find a man with an acceptable level of religion and he has good character, can I ask him to propose to my sister for marriage?
So the question is, if I were to find a person who is acceptable in his religious commitment and his akhlaq, and he's quite a catch, can I propose to him to marry my sister or my daughter? The answer is yes. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, when his daughter Hafsa was widowed, he proposed to Abu Bakr and he proposed to Uthman. May Allah be pleased with them both. And they were his friends. So there's no shame in doing such an act, because each one of us is trying his level best to get a suitable suitor for his sister, for his daughter, for the ones whom he is in charge of as a guardian. So there's nothing wrong in that at all, inshallah. Siddiq from Spain. Siddiq. Is Siddiq with us? Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Siddiq?
My question is, I am a student and I received scholarship. Is there zakat on that?
Okay. So Siddiq is a student and he gets a scholarship, meaning that they give him an allowance or a monthly salary. So is there zakat on it? The answer is, you have to understand the concept of zakat, because this is a pillar of Islam. So this is an important question for all Muslims. And you must learn these things, because in Islam, there are things that are mandatory for you to learn, such as how to pray, what to say, what is zakat if you have wealth, how to fast, the things that break your fasts. And there are things that are a communal obligation. If other scholars, students of knowledge, and people know of, it's not important for you to know. So if I were a poor person and I'm penniless, is it obligatory upon me to know what is zakah? No, I don't have to, because there is no zakah on me, so why would I learn it? So for us Muslims, we have to learn our religion. Now zakat, especially when we're talking about zakat of cash money, is obligatory upon me only with two conditions. Condition number one, that I possess a minimum, a threshold of wealth that is equivalent to 595 grams of silver. You go online and check how much is the value of 595 grams in silver, in your currency, whether it's a euro, dollars, real, dirham, or whatever. Condition number one, if I have this threshold or above, then I look for the second condition, and that is this amount that is zakatable has to remain in my possession for a whole lunar year, a whole hijrah year. So if I received it in the first of Ramadan, then the following Ramadan, a year later, if I still have this amount or more, I have to give 2.5% of it. So I hope this answers your question. Sumayya from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salamullah.
Sorry, Sheikh, I'm a little bit nervous, and I've been married for 16 years and I have 3 kids. So in my life, whenever there is a problem, my husband will not solve the issue. Instead, he will just send me my home and will not call me. He will not take the expenses for 1 year or more than that. And he will come back after 1 year. After that, he will come back and we will return like to the normal life. This already happened 3 times in my life, and I felt more worthless and I don't want to be burdened for my family, so I went with him. And right now I'm in the same situation, and I'm in UAE and he is in India now, and for 5 months he is not calling me. He's not taking the expense or nothing like that. As we are having a rental agreement for before 2 months, he just did that, and alhamdulillah, I have got a courage to do the online classes, and I'm little bit earning for ourselves, for me and my children. And for 2 months I'm taking the complete expenses of my family, and this time I didn't make any attempt to call him, to convince him. So everyone are blaming me like I'm not taking the responsibility, like I'm not calling him or I'm not convincing his family. So it is like a mental torture for me, and I want to know that am I sinful, Sheikh? For not calling him. I'm afraid that if it happens again, if I call him, that I'm afraid that it will happen again. So Sheikh, can you give me any advice that what should I do?
Okay, first of all, such issues are not solved in a Q&A on TV, and this is why we have counseling sessions. But in counseling sessions, I can listen to more details, I can ask you more questions, and maybe we have to sit and talk to the husband himself. This is not possible here. So I'll give you the sequence. This usually works. Number one, you've been married for 16 years with 3 kids, and he has done this 3 times. Possibilities for me as a counselor. Number one is that he is an evil person. He doesn't fear Allah. Maybe he's a mummy's boy. So his mom says to him, send her home. And he does that. And there are lots, especially from the subcontinent, unfortunately, who are not real men. They don't have a spine. So whatever mama says to them or baba says to them, they will do it immediately. In this case, this is a different scenario. Number 2, maybe he did this because as a victim, you come on live TV, you talk to me, and the sheikh is soft-hearted and he cries with you and you say, hey, the poor thing, not knowing that she's the villain and the poor victim is the man. When you speak to the man, and this is what I usually do, and the man says things that, whoa, see, when you listen to one party, you make a mistake. So I listen to you and I say, well, your husband needs to be hanged. But when I listen to him and he refutes what you said and explains his position with evidences, I said, your wife should stand in front of a firing squad And when they both sit together, and I listen to him and to her at the same time, while they're exposing each one's reality, 50% of what he said goes down the drain, 50% or more of what she said goes down the drain. Because now there's someone to rectify or to say or falsify what their other party is saying. So I have to listen to his side of the story. Let us assume, because this is not a counseling session, let us assume everything you said was right. That he's a mommy's boy, he doesn't fear Allah, he doesn't provide for you or your children, he sends you to your parents' house for 6 months and sometimes for a year until you beg and patch things up. This is not a real man. Him not providing for you and for your children is a legitimate reason to go for divorce. But would we encourage women to go for divorce? Sometimes he's the best of the two evils, not the worst. So if she were to be divorced, she would not have anyone to provide for her, which is the case at the moment, or she would not have a shelter or a house to take her in with her children. So she would be forced to do heinous things. So some women, we say, it's like cancer, you have to live with it until he dies. Then you will inherit him, inshallah. Other than that, I cannot help you because his parents are as evil as he is. And this guy, as I said, he's spineless. So this is your test from Allah. Sometimes a woman is, capable and financially independent. Why would you stay with such a wimp? Someone who treats you like trash, if what you're saying is true. See, all of these things are a cocktail, depending on the situation, which I'm unable to determine at the moment. So this is your choice. This is your life. Now, am I sinful for not calling him? If you're not the oppressor, if you're not the wrongdoer, why would I call him if he treats me like this? I'm giving him an alibi. I'm giving him an excuse to repeat and do this every time he doesn't feel good or he doesn't like what I do. So is this a kind of a life? Is this a marriage? No, it's not. And believe me, Allah would not leave him alone. If you're listening to me, I doubt you listen to some sheikh from Saudi Arabia like myself, especially the one who insults men when they're wrongdoing. But if you were listening to me, wallahi, Allah will not leave you alone. You can do whatever you want to this woman and to your children. You can oppress them like hell. No problem in that. Go ahead. Don't ever think for a moment that Allah is going to leave you alone. It's coming. If it did not come yet, wait for it. Wait for it and it'll come. But when the wrath of Allah comes, you would have wished that you would not have ever done such a thing to your wife and to your children. So may Allah make things easy for you. Dino from the US.
Assalamu alaikum.
Samtullah.
I have an eye infection and I want to know, since I don't think I can do wudu, how can I make wudu, and do I have to do tayammum?
Okay, may Allah Azza wa Jal cure your infection and restore your health back to better than it was before. If a person is unable to perform wudu due to the lack of water, there is no water existing, or there is a barrier or something preventing him from using water, such as an illness, Allah mentioned in 2 verses in the Quran. So there is in Surah Al-Ma'idah and Surah Al-Nisa that you may refer to tayammum, and it's called dry ablution. How is it done? You strike the earth once, the soil, the ground, whatever, once, and you wipe your face and your hands. Whether you start with the face or with the hands, both are the same, and it's mentioned in the authentic hadith, and it's also referred to the ayah of the Quran. So both is acceptable, inshallah. So if you're unable to wash your face or to get water close to your eyes due to surgery, to illness, to acne, to whatever, and the doctors say you have to stay away from water, there is no problem in performing tayammum, and this would substitute for wudu. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Sidi from Germany.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamualaikum.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm doing well, alhamdulillah, Sidi.
Sheikh, I asked you in the past that about reciting silently, silent raqqa, if we should recite with some voice or without voice, and you said we can recite without voice. Is it only in the congregation, or can I also recite without voice alone?
You are entitled to recite silently without a voice, providing you are moving your lips and tongue with the recitation, whether you're praying as an imam in silent prayers, or you are praying alone, or you are a follower in congregation. So if I were to recite the Fatiha, I would do the following motion. You will not hear a sound, so there's nothing wrong with your television set. This is silently. Or I can say, where I can only hear that without knowing those next to me, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We have a short break, stay tuned, and inshallah, we'll be right back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam reminded us through his guidance and example that Islam is complete submission to the will of Allah. For one who submits, a mere declaration or display of belief will not be taken for success, but his or her heart and soul will certainly be put to test. Allah tested the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam severely in order that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes an example for his companions to follow. Similarly, he tests the believer to see whether he lives a righteous life in accordance with the instructions and commands set by Allah, or lives according to what his desires dictate. Whether the faith he displays is firmly rooted in his heart, or is it merely on the surface. He will be tested to see whether he will continue to have faith and love of Allah when in a calamity, as he does when in comfort, whether he will continue to remember and worship him if given bounties and comforts of life, as he does when he lives a modest life. Allah will undoubtedly test him to see if his faith, trust and love of him is unconditional, or is it conditioned upon good health and a comfortable life, free from stress and anxiety. The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed us through his own example that for a righteous Muslim, this life is a testing ground where he will continue to be tested until he meets Allah. For him, tests will be conducted on earth while he lives, and not after he dies. He knows that as soon as death arrives and he steps into the next world, his tests are over. There, he only receives the result of his tests and enjoys the fruits of the deeds that he committed during a short span of time called life.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back. Do we have any callers? So give us a second until the control room decides whether there are callers or not. I hope I do not fall asleep.
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And who's this?
Sheikh, I am Fuad from Bangladesh.
Yes, again, how is that possible? Yes, Fuad.
So, Sheikh, my question is, if a person enters the masjid and finds that the imam is in the last tashahud of the congregational prayer, then he is going to the row to perform the prayer with the congregation. In this situation, the imam gave taslim on the right side and the person reaches the row by that time. So will he be able to join the congregation with the imam even after giving the taslim on the right side? Barakallahu fi hayatik.
Wa baraka fikum. No, this is not permissible. If the imam gives the salam to the right and you did not initiate the takbiratul ihram and sat to catch up with him, there is no prayer for you with them. So might as well go and join the second congregation. Nasra from the US.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
If one is traveling west and the sun always seems to be in the same place, does it mean that someone who is flying for 18 hours or maybe even 21 hours wouldn't pray a single prayer for the entire duration of their flight?
Okay, so you tell me, Nasra, how do we know the prayer times when we're flying?
By the position of the sun.
Then this answers your question. If a person is flying westbound, this means that he may not see the sun moving except in a very, very slow rate. So if I am to travel in the morning at 10 o'clock, going to Kuala Lumpur from Saudi Arabia, the flight is 8 hours plus. I leave at 10 o'clock a.m., I reach there almost 8 or 9 p.m. So I would find that Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha have already lapsed, maybe even later than that time. And if I'm going back home from the east to the west, I may not pray a single prayer on the plane because I'm pursuing the sun. I'm after the sun, so the sun is unable to set because I'm flying in the same direction. So I would reach there maybe 2-3 hours after my takeoff, though it is an 8-hour flight. Therefore, I determine the time of the prayer while on the plane through the position of the sun. So in Fajr time, it's very obvious. When it's all dark and then I see the white light or line in the horizon in the direction of the east, I know this is Fajr time. So I pray. I don't need to follow any app. I can see it visually. In sunset, the same thing goes in Maghrib because it's daytime and all of a sudden it's becoming darker and darker and I can see the sun setting and boom, it disappears. It's Maghrib time. Dhuhr and Asr might be a little bit tricky because I need to know whether the sun is in the middle of the sky, going a little bit to the west, so this is the time of Dhuhr, or a little bit more, this is the time of Asr. Isha time is also easy when I see the redness at the place where the sun had set disappears, this is Isha time. So Dhuhr and Asr is the time where you have to estimate, and if you wait until it is like an hour before sunset and you pray Dhuhr and Asr, that would be no problem because Alhamdulillah you can combine. Muhammad from Pakistan.
Sheikh, there is a sensor in the soul. Our soul can sense what is sin and what is a righteous deed. So those people who conceal or hide the soul and do not taught it what is a sin and what is a righteous deed, it is not major sin to conceal the soul?
First of all, what you've stated is totally wrong, Akhi. You've stated that the soul can sense what is right and what is wrong, and this is not true. Those who live in the West or in the East, those who are disbelievers, they have souls and their souls tell them wrong things all the time. It tells them that pornography is okay, watching movies and mixing and flirting with the opposite gender, homosexuality is okay, drinking wine is okay, using usury and riba is okay. They're kafir, they're disbelievers. And if you talk to them, they will sincerely try to convince you that this is fine. So the soul cannot know or feel what is right and wrong, generally speaking, in the sense that, yes, all over the world, killing another soul is prohibited. And it's wrong, we can feel it, whether we're Muslims or non-Muslims. Everybody knows that transgression is haram, is prohibited. Taking people's wealth unlawfully is prohibited. These are general things that are by nature, by default in our human nature, we know. But other things, we can't. And this is why Allah had sent down to us His book, Al-Quran, and He sent to us His messenger, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, to teach us, to explain to us, to guide us, and to take us out from darkness into the light. So it is wrong to depend on your intuition or on your feelings, like the Sufis do. The super Sufis say, I don't need Sharia. I have my heart to dictate what's right and what's wrong, and this is totally prohibited. Likewise, the Mu'tazila, the deviant sect of Al-Mu'tazila, who say that good and bad is a logical thing, and it's not. It's only known through the Sharia, the Quran and the Sunnah. Insaram from Australia.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaykum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, I was wondering if someone is making the fard version of ghusl to uplift a major impurity, is the wudu that is there still intact if they clean their private parts after covering themselves with the water and then rinsing the mouth and taking the water up the nose?
Okay, first of all, this is an issue of dispute whether touching the private part invalidates the wudu or not. And I am inclined to follow the opinion of Sheikh ibn Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy on his soul, who took a middle stance because we have two seemingly contradicting hadith. One says that it invalidates wudu, and one says it's part of your body, so it does not impact your wudu. So hadith of Busra bin Safwan or Talq ibn Ali, which one to take? So to combine both hadiths without rejecting one of them, the Shaykh ibn Uthaymeen says that touching your private part with lust and desire breaks your wudu. So in the case of having a ghusl and you wash your private part, this is not applicable because nobody does this out of desire and lust. It's just to clean it. Secondly, if you're doing what you called, quote unquote, fard ghusl, which is the sunnah ghusl, or the ghusl to uplift a major ritual impurity, as in the case of janaba or a menses for women. So if you're doing this and following the sunnah, you do not get in touch with your private part except in the very, very beginning before you perform wudu. So you're safe. Hypothetically, assuming you're not following the sequence of the sunnah, so you're just taking a shower with the intention of uplifting your major ritual impurity while rinsing your mouth and nose. And during the process, you may touch your private part. Inshallah, your wudu is intact and Allah knows best. Asif from the Emirates.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh, my question is, if there is a fear of menses for a woman who goes on Hajj on the 13th day and they are going to stay till like 25th day, is it fine to do Tawaf al-Wida on the 13th itself?
Okay.
Or should
I will answer you. I will answer you, Asif Bhai. The issue of Hajj is a very simple, yet a bit complicated for those who do not read and learn about it. And unfortunately, for most of us who performed it once every blue moon. Therefore, you have to revisit this. In Hajj, there are pillars which if you avoid them, then your Hajj is invalid. Among the pillars is a tawaf, one tawaf where you go around the Kaaba, and it's called Tawaful Ifada, or another name, Tawaful Ziyara, or Tawaful Hajj. 3 names for the same ritual. Different names, but the same ritual. And it's a pillar. The timing of it is on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, on the day of Eid. And it can be delayed on the 11th, 12th, 13th, up till the end of Dhul Hijjah. Without it, you can not, if you're married, have intimacy with your spouse. Otherwise, you will be obliged to slaughter a sheep because you've committed one of the restrictions of Hajj. There are 2 types of tahallul. The first one is the one that I can wear my normal clothes, wear perfume, clip my nails, get married, etc., blah, blah, blah. This is done when I throw the 7 pebbles on the day of Eid and I shave my head. That's it. Boom, I can do that. Everything is permitted for me as a pilgrim, as a muhrim, except intimacy. If I perform Tawaful Hajj and the Sa'i of Hajj, which both are pillars, then now I can have intimacy with my spouse. If you did this on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, on the day of Eid, so you've accomplished the pillars. We come to another tawaf known as Tawaful Ifada. And let me rephrase that. You can edit this, but this is live. You can't edit it. We come to a different type of tawaf known as Tawaful Wida', the farewell tawaf. And this is mandatory, where the Prophet said, if this is the last thing you do before leaving Mecca, back home, you have to offer 7 rounds around the Kaaba, and this is called Tawaful Wada'. This particular tawaf is mandatory. If you go home without doing it, you have to slaughter a sheep in Mecca and distribute the meat to the poor. But there are people who are exempted from doing it. Who? A woman in her menses. So if a woman already performed her pillar Tawaf al-Ifada, Tawaf al-Hajj, on the 10th or the 11th of Dhul Hijjah, then she waited until the 13th or the 14th or the 15th and then wanted to go back home, but she is in her menses, we say to her, go in the safety of Allah Azza wa Jal. You are not obliged to perform it. There's no expiation, there's no sin on you. So I hope this answers your question. Mas'ud from Germany.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Sheikh, Alhamdulillah, my parents are in Makkah right now to perform Hajj this year.
MashaAllah.
They have already completed their Umrah. Now they would like to perform more Nafil Tawaf. Currently, the Mataf area is available for the Umrah pilgrims only. So if they want to perform Nafil Tawaf, they have to do it on the first floor. Now, my parents are above 60 and have pain in their legs. They cannot walk for a long time. In this case, if my father puts on the 2 white garments of Ihram and go to Mataf to perform Nafil Tawaf, will it be cheating?
Why would he do this? Is it because he wants the authorities to think that he's wearing Ihram and they will allow him to do this?
Yeah, so he can go to Mataf and do it.
Yeah, this is sort of cheating, but it is legal cheating. So we know that Nafil Tawaf is not mandatory and Ihram is not one of its conditions. I can perform Nafil Tawaf wearing this attire. But if a person says, I would like to wear my 2 towels, the white towels, as if I am a muhrim, but I'm not in the state of Ihram. I just want to pretend that I'm in the state of Ihram so that they would allow me in. There is no problem in doing that, insha'Allah. I would not do it. Why? Because I'd rather go and pray rather than offer this tawaf, which I know that may burden other worshippers, because it's a limited area and lots of people are coming for Umrah or for Hajj. I don't want to add to the burden and to the crowd. So instead, alhamdulillah, I did my umrah, I will do my hajj. Later on, I can do that. And if I don't do it, there's nothing wrong in skipping it altogether. You can go and pray nafil and voluntary prayers as much as you wish. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have for today's episode. Until we meet, inshaAllah, next Saturday between Maghrib and Isha here in Makkah region. I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين